at 24 minutes past 10, 6 minutes before we were due to go live. Fabrizio Romano even tweeted, understand Newcastle have now already left talks for Hugo Ekitike. The deal is considered off at this stage. Newcastle are now focusing on different targets since Monday bid got rejected. Liverpool have entered the race. There were no advances with the Magpies. Liverpool are now advancing. So, Paul, there's been this Alexander Isak, Newcastle, Hugo Ekitike, Liverpool, I don't know, maybe like a square of everything moving around. It appeared like Liverpool want Alexander Isak, maybe been told it's not happening, so Newcastle were going for Ekitike. Now Liverpool have tried to gazump them in that race. Is that the understanding of where we're at with this all right now?
Yeah, so Liverpool are in talks now with Eintracht Frankfurt over Ekitike, and a bid is expected. And, you know, Frankfurt turned down, what was it, 70 million on Monday for Ekitike? I think they were holding out for maybe around 80 million. So that's why I think Liverpool know where they will stand with that, and they're looking to push on. So, yeah, I mean, we knew that obviously they were in the market for the striker for a long time, didn't we? Because of Darwin Núñez's sort of, you know, not particularly suited to Arne Slot's style of football. I think it's fair to say. Obviously, we know that the horrendous news what happened with Diogo Jota. So, yeah, I mean, it seems a little bit insensitive still, I think. You know, two weeks of the day since we got the news through the Diogo Jota had sadly, you know, being killed in a car accident with his brother. But there was always that sort of understanding that, you know, Liverpool were already sort of pushing on for targets, weren't they? So I guess sensitivities are still there around this sort of stuff, but there has been work going on in the background, and yeah, Ekitike now is nudged ahead as the number one target. We're going to come on to Isak shortly, aren't we? But I think it was almost like Liverpool gave Newcastle a bit of a Sophie's choice with this one. It was, you know, entertain selling Isak to us, or we will look to get involved in the Ekitike race, and that will probably not end the way you want it to end. So yeah, that's the understanding of the situation as it stands, and Liverpool pushing on, and a bid now, whenever that comes, is will be the next part of the storyline.
Yeah, I suppose. Like I said, we can kind of intertwine the Isak and the Ekitike, because it definitely does come together, given the clubs involved. Yeah, it just feels like Liverpool, obviously everybody wants Alexander Isak. There'll be very few clubs in Europe who wouldn't mind having Alex Isak if they could get him. Does it feel like Liverpool maybe have just tested the waters? Maybe the no is a absolute, like, this is not happening. Okay, then who is next on the line? Well, it's Hugo Ekitike. It just so happened that Newcastle were trying to sign him as well. Liverpool have just kind of moved down their list one step.
Yeah, I think, you know, the Newcastle, you know, looking at the reporters who cover the Newcastle beat, and the sort of briefing was that they were looking to play Ekitike with Isak, or maybe, you know, compete and dovetail and rotate. But I think there was a bit of scepticism from the Liverpool circles over how true that was, and there was a bit of almost a sort of underlying thing that they are getting a few ducks in a row with Ekitike because they might be forced to sell Alex Isak, and you know, Liverpool did test the waters, and I think the fact that was reported on Tuesday, was it, by Fabrizio Romano, was possibly caught Liverpool on the hop a little bit. And Newcastle as well. I don't think either club will have wanted that to be in the public domain, certainly at this stage. So I think, you know, that has caught them off guard a little bit. And, you know, Liverpool have, you know, been sold as firm as it gets, I suppose, from Newcastle. Isak isn't for sale, which has been their long-standing stance. No softening of that, even with the prospect of 120 million for their star man. So Liverpool have maybe accepted that quite quickly and moved on. And, you know, like you say, the number two target, in inverted commas, happens to be the guy who Newcastle wanted as well. So, yeah, it's been an awkward one for Newcastle. Ball has been in their court, but Liverpool have, you know, sort of pulled rank a little bit, shall we say?
Yeah, it's weird because, like, it depends which way you look at it. There'll be Newcastle fans maybe who watch or listen to this and go, actually, we're okay because we got to keep Alexander Isak. That's better than losing him and getting Ekitike. On the flip side, they clearly wanted both, because, again, all the reporting was, we want to play Isak and Ekitike. We want both of them. Yeah. So it feels like, and it appears Liverpool wanted Alexander Isak, but getting Hugo Ekitike, who I'm sure they're more than happy with. It actually feels like everybody hasn't quite got exactly what they wanted. I mean, we don't know. That's from the club side, by the way. Don't know what Alexander Isak wanted and maybe what Ekitike wanted, although there is reporting coming out of Germany that he obviously would prefer to move to Liverpool. Yeah. But yeah, it's weird because, like, Liverpool aren't exactly getting the number one, but they're getting a very good player. Newcastle they're keeping their best player, but they aren't going to get the guy they wanted to spend a club record fee on.
Yeah.
It feels like, not compromise, like, everybody's kind of be okay with where they've landed, I guess.
Well, for Newcastle, they're no further along, are they? They've still got Isak, which is obviously, I guess, their number one priority to keep their star man, but they're not getting much further down the road in terms of improving their squad with the Champions League campaign ahead of them. They've obviously got Anthony Elanga in, haven't they, to sort of fill that right wing spot. The Jacob Murphy was there last season, but they didn't get João Pedro. Obviously, Ekitike looks like he's going to be coming to Liverpool at this stage while we record. Things can change quickly, can't they? But I guess for Newcastle, it's now, like Romano says in that tweet, focusing on other targets and who they may be. There's probably no concern of Liverpool's, is it? So I think that the most encouraging thing from a Liverpool perspective in the news on Tuesday was that if Liverpool are sort of seeking out Newcastle's stance at this stage, there must have been some encouragement behind the scenes from Isak camp that he would be interested in the move. So I couldn't see him agitating, couldn't see him rocking the boat. He didn't strike me as that type of character, but obviously don't really follow him as closely as I would perhaps a Liverpool player. So it looks like that news is probably coming out has caught Liverpool on the hop. Maybe they were just testing the waters a little bit, and then if the stance remained unchanged and he was still not for sale, then they would look at bringing in the player who Newcastle had already earmarked. So, I mean, it's there's a lot of moving parts to it, isn't it? And it moves fast, and we say this all the time, but like you say, all this has happened in the space of 48 hours, and like you said at the top of the show, the sort of there's been another wrinkle to the story 5 minutes before we come on air, so things move fast.
Been another one while we're on here. Newcastle are now exploring a move to sign Johan Visa from Brentford after cooling their Hugo Ekitike into stats from David Ornstein. So maybe Newcastle have moved on to number 3 on their list. It appears João Pedro was number 1. It appears like Hugo Ekitike was number 2. Maybe Johan Visa, who's again a good player, maybe has ended up as number 3. So it's all kind of mixing up. There's a danger here, Paul, and I have to say this, like, everybody in the world who supports Liverpool, I don't think there were many who didn't want Liverpool to sign Alexander Isak. Like, I think it would have been the dream again. A little bit of injury concern, but for the most part, he's one of the best strikers in Europe. We have to be careful because Hugo Ekitike, if it is him, and it looks like it is going to be, is a very good player. You don't want this to be feeling like after the Lord's made show. Like you've got to, you're going to be spending a big fee on a number 9, the guy who's going to lead the line for the Premier League champions, hopefully help them defend their crown. Like, you've got to be careful that there's no disappointment with signing Hugo Ekitike. It's just, he is still a very good player. You're just maybe not getting the player that everybody would have liked.
Yeah, I think that's why Liverpool will have been frustrated to have seen the news come out, that they sort of tested the waters with Newcastle, because once it comes out, there's an expectation among supporters that it's already a done deal and it's further along than it is, and that wasn't necessarily the case. So, it looks like Liverpool, I mean, they will have known for a while that Newcastle steadfastly refusing to sell Isak, and they're under no real pressure to. They've obviously got fewer PSR concerns because they're in the Champions League. He's got 3 years left on his contract. They want to make him the highest paid player in the club's history. So everything is pointing towards them being very sort of, hands-on in terms of what happens next for Alexander Isak's future, and it certainly wasn't entertaining an offer of selling him. But I made this point the other day just to a colleague that, supporters can sort of turn the nose up at 120 million and say, well, he's worth 150. But that's just supporters in a sort of theoretical world. Once this offer comes in, maybe, verbally more than officially written up and all that sort of stuff, but once it is sort of in play with executives and people at the club, that becomes real money. And that's when it can become tempting, and then that's when you think maybe you can sort of sell the golden goose and reinvest it strategically in a way that Liverpool did with Coutinho all those years ago. You could have got an Ekitike, and you could have got maybe 1 or 2 others, some targets that you're not really making much progress on at the moment. James Trafford was one, and maybe they could have got Visser and Ekitike for the price of an Alexander Isak, but they do seem insistent on not selling him, and Liverpool have quickly moved on to the guy who they believe is probably the next in line, and there's going to be 40 million difference between the pair. So Liverpool are obviously saving money on that front, and they will look at other areas as well, won't they? We're still sure we're going to come on to Luis Diaz, and that centre-back search hasn't really gone anywhere yet, so still things for Liverpool to pursue. And I think what will happen now is the bid will come in and they will look to wrap it all up. I think this is where we're at now. This is the 2025 version of, forward sort of whack-a-mole, if you like. It's Ekitike now will be the one that Liverpool will press on with after being told Isak's a no.
On him, by the way, just to cut you off, they've made a bid for Ekitike according to Fabrizio Romano.
Liverpool have.
It says Liverpool have submitted an official bid to Eintracht Frankfurt for Hugo Ekitike, but Eintracht Frankfurt have informed Liverpool that they want more, so they've rejected the proposal. As talks continue, Ekitike said yes to Liverpool, no issues on personal terms. He wants LFC TV.
So what that might be then is that
LFC, not LFC TV. I mean, he might want to go on LFC TV.
75 million. I think they were looking out for closer to 80 when Newcastle bid 70 earlier this week. So, that might be where they're at the moment, 75 million. And we've seen, Jean-Philippe Mateta getting linked the other day, and we see these Rodrigo links. It just feels as though it's, obviously the horrendous news about Jota has sort of made the situation a bit more acute in terms of what Liverpool need to do squad-wise. And we know Nunes has been heading for the extra door for a number of weeks. So it does feel as though it's a bit sort of like, well, Liverpool could go for him, they could go for him. So I think this is what we're seeing at the moment, very much sort of, not necessarily that, this is just invented, faults and stuff. I think it's just maybe Liverpool are putting out a number of feelers behind the scenes quietly, and then some of it is leaking into the news.
That was a clip from JNO Insight. To check out the whole show, head to redmenplus.com or click the link in the description.